And now.
And now,
Introducing
the one, the only.
Let me introduce to you
Lively talk with successful people, barely filtered. This is the Jenna Ben Show.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning into the Jenna Ben Show, guys. I'm your host, Jenna Ben, and with us today, I have super baddie UFC number 7 flyweight with a record of 19-2 with multiple championships and awards from kickboxing, boxing, Scottish Thai boxing, karate, and of course, the highly coveted UFC Fight of the Night award. Welcome, Jojo Calderwood. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so glad to have you on. I've seen a few of your interviews and you're so cute and the things that you say are just like so funny and natural. And I love an authentic person. So I'm stoked to have you on. I'm glad that your manager, Danny, made it happen.
Awesome. Yeah, he tried to make it happen. And today I had a hair appointment and he's like trying to get this organized. And I was like, no, you don't understand. And he's like, you're going to be in the hairdressers for 4 or 5 hours. And I'm like, yeah. You don't understand because you don't have to do this girl crap.
I can only imagine you probably do color too, right?
Yeah, but this is the first time I've done it in maybe a year. It's like my roots were down to here. You should have seen the before picture. She can I take a before picture? And I'm like, yeah, sure, as long as you don't tag me in it.
Oh my God, I totally feel you. And COVID living, I just got a haircut probably like 2 weeks ago, and it was just a haircut and it took like 2 hours.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm so glad to have you on, originally from Scotland, and now you're living and fighting out of Las Vegas. Talk to me about COVID living. Obviously, everything's gone amok with our appearances, but how has it been? Like, what has changed for you?
Probably what's changed the most is that now we have a gym in our house, which we probably should have had anyway. And that, at first I was like, I don't know, this is kind of wasting money, like, because I've got access to the UFC PI and my fiance owns a gym, but it was a good move. And now, like, I can get in extra workouts, so that's changed. Like, I've added in things and I can do more rehab, and I'm more kind of disciplined to go in there more often and get the extra work. And not like I'm doing anything crazy, but I mean, even just the recovery is great for going in there and making myself foam roll and feel like I'm at the gym kind of thing. I'm not at the house and being lazy.
That's so cool. One thing I admire most about you fighters is that you're so disciplined physically. Like, I can do a lot with work, but when it comes to like getting my workouts in and going to the gym, I'm like, I'll take care of this work. It's more important, but that is your work. And so, you put in a lot, obviously, to achieve a record of 19-2. I mean, you're busting your butt in there.
Yeah, especially when you come home, you feel like, oh, I can just rest now. So, but the work's kind of it's never ending, so it's good for that. But yeah, it's different for everyone, but I'm sure that's why you're so good at what you do. And I try to be good at what I'm doing because of discipline.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so COVID, have you learned anything about yourself or picked up any new habits other than working out?
Other than being okay with my hair being a mess?
Yeah.
I've just learned to kind of rest more because I've seen the benefits from not being at the gym at the start, when we were in lockdown and we couldn't go to the gym, and I was still training, but I was probably more recovered and more resting and, kind of lazing by the pool and working on my tan, but I was still resting my body. So I feel like that I've benefited and realize now that, I do have to work on being able to, because fighters, we don't want to take a day off. And if we take a session off, we like beat ourselves up for the rest of the day. And that's kind of the vicious circle. But I've saw the benefits, and now being back and having access to the gym, I've noticed that I definitely need to kind of listen to the people at the UFC PI, and you know, they know what they're talking about, and I'm seeing the results.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. Okay. So here on the Jenna Ben Show, we talk about my guest stories, you know, give a chance to let the listeners get to know you, basically the woman behind the fighter. And then I'm going to get some insights from you on the fight industry. And I'm actually really curious to see who you're close with of the people who have been on the show, but we'll get into that. First, I want to know, I've seen some of your interviews where you're more energetic, and then I've seen you be more laid back, but I think there's like a wild child in you, maybe somewhere. What were you like as a kid?
Wild child, as in, you know, I had this switch, and I think that's why Muay Thai clicked with me so well, because I had this like frustration inside me, and just I could snap at any time, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying that I was like going out attacking people, but I just had this, I could this energy inside me that it could turn on when it needed, but at that time when I didn't know how to control it. But it was never anything to do with my family. It was an automatic switch. I was like, okay, the crazy biatch is here. That's why I'm so protective over my loved ones. I don't know what it is. It's always been there.
You know, what's interesting to me is I look at you and you're very soft spoken and you look so sweet, like total girl next door, but you could kill someone, you know? I think that's so cool. Like I love female baddies, you know, and I'm actually starting to get more female fighters on the show because I respect what you guys do so much, and maybe I can get some tips. You know, I got all these male fighters wanting to train me, but you know, I think it'd be cool to learn some stuff from you guys.
Girls are definitely more vicious than the guys, I think.
All right, so you started MMA by accident at the age of 13. Tell us that story.
So I was just going along, well, my mom asked me to go along with my brother because he was going to a Muay Thai class, and his friend was like, oh, I can't do it or something. So mom's like, can you go along with him just to keep him company? And I was like, sure. And because I was competing as a swimmer, and I was kind of getting bored of that and looking for something else. And I went along that first class and just got the bug straight away. And it was just me and him that were the kind of kids in the adult class, because we were too old for like kids, and then we were like, so we were in between. So it ended up really good, and he kind of fell away from it. But anything I could do, I was like, please just let me train, because I loved it. And then yeah, here I am now. I'm like, it's a distant memory now, but a good one.
Okay, what did mom have to say when you were like, listen, I want to do this as a career?
Probably the turning point was when I was like, Mom, I'm going to give up I used to work as a nursing assistant in 12-hour shifts, good pay at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give that up and work in the gym for like minimum wage. And she was like, you're what? I was like, yeah, I think it's going to work out good. And it did. Like, I saved so much money, and I just was smarter with my money and the time, and because I was doing 12-hour shifts and then training before and after, so it was just catching up with me. And I'm glad I made that decision. But yeah, she was like, I don't think that's a good idea, but she supported my decision. And she was more kind of, you have to be secure and with money and that kind of thing. But it worked out in the end, and it was a good choice then. Okay.
So when you were in high school, I mean, you started at 13. So by the time you got to high school, you're already kind of, you know, an established badass. Were the boys intimidated by you?
To be honest, looking back at it, I wasn't someone that went around and says, oh, I'm training. I'm pretty quiet as a person, and I'm not really put myself out there. So to be honest, I don't think a lot of people probably knew that I did train, and It wasn't till I had my first professional fight, and that was when I left school. I was 18, but like my close friends knew, and they thought it was pretty cool. And luckily it wasn't a target, or they weren't like, Jojo, jump in for me. So try to stay out of trouble as much as possible. But yeah, a lot of people, I'd get people hit me up now like, oh man, I went to school with you and I didn't know this is what you'd done and that kind of thing. So it's pretty cool when I read things like that. It's best to kind of go under the radar.
Yeah, you know what? I forget that when we grew up, there wasn't Instagram and there wasn't Twitter and like, you know, yeah, Facebook was a thing, but it wasn't a thing. Like now all you have to do is go to someone's Instagram page and you can learn a lot about them in a few minutes.
Yeah, I remember it used to be the newspaper. Like I would be in the back of the local newspaper, and that's probably like, and it was more so my mum's friends that would say, oh, I saw your daughter in that's pretty good, she done so-and-so, and that's how you would find out that. So if you read the newspaper when you were that young, that was your news.
Okay, so then you enter the UFC, like you've done all this training from 13 to 26, and then fast forward, you entered Tough, the Ultimate Fighter in 2013, you were age 26. Now, that must have been a huge moment for you. What was it like when you got that casting call?
To be honest, Shannon called me and told me about it, and I was like, no, I can't do this, no way, like this. And because I had fought 4 times for Invicta, or I had maybe done 3, and then I had 1 coming up, and she was like basically telling me the next step was that I would be going into the Tough. And she was like, Jojo, you'll be great. And because reality for me is just, I just want to stand in the corner and not be noticed. But she's like, this is going to be great, and you know, if you don't like it, there's always, you can come back to us. So that moment there was great, because she's such a powerful woman, and she really, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been in that position actually. So yeah, it was exciting but very nerve-wracking, because I also knew the girls, half of the girls that I would be in with, I already knew their characters, and they're typical American girls, like loud, and people like I would not probably be around. Like, I would just be like, yeah, it's cool, but but it was a great experience, and I do look back on it like that was pretty cool that I survived it, and I got through it.
Well, you didn't just get through it. I mean, you got to the semifinals and you happened to get a $25,000 bonus, and you walked away with a UFC contract.
Yeah, that's
okay.
great.
That's pretty cool. So then you get this contract, and I mean, it's a little bit different than for the fighters who just get the call out of the blue and then they have to fight on 2 weeks' notice. You know, you kind of knew, I'm sure, that it was coming, right?
Yeah. Do you mean like then once I was in the UFC, or before I was in the UFC?
When you're in Tough, and then you know, you and a bunch of other women were offered contracts. So when I haven't interviewed, the only other UFC fighter I've interviewed on the show is actually Cynthia Calvillo, who I want to talk to you about in a second. But for the most part, I talked to the guys and they describe it like, yeah, I already knew I was going to get the contract even though I didn't win. So was it like that for you?
I felt like I'd done, because I went in and I was quite high up in their kind of the seeding order, and I thought I'd done, apparently everyone says that they loved me on the show, so I was kind of a little bit excited that I'd done a good job, even though I was just being myself. So I and then obviously getting the fight of the season with Rose, so that was good. And I didn't quite know that I was getting a contract, but I knew it was going to be a good kind of moving forward with the UFC.
Maverick, you want to come say hi?
Oh, he's just left.
I saw his little hand.
I told him, I picked him up from school and I says, oh, we have to hurry, I've got an interview. And he's like, you've got another interview? Can remember all them, because in quarantine I would do some stuff and he would want to be there, like, because he's there.
Cute.
So he's like, can I be there? So he's learned about interviews and he kind of like, he's pretty good. He's probably better than me, but he likes to be involved.
Well, he can certainly be involved. Let's get him on when he comes back in the room.
All right.
Okay, so, all right, so what was a bigger moment for you when you got sounds like you were kind of more intimidated when you got the tough call versus the UFC contract. But you tell me, what was a bigger moment?
So you're like questioning me. Well, I'm like questioning myself. Did I already have a contract? I think they got 8 girls from Invicta, and they basically told us that we would be in the UFC. So we didn't have to, our season, this is terrible, but our season, I think we were already like guaranteed to be in the UFC. We didn't have to fight to get a contract, if you know what I mean. We had to do the show and then we got into the UFC.
That's so cool.
And I'm sure that I should know that, but it was so long ago. But
yeah, that was so long ago.
I think we already had contracts, so I think our jobs were secure unless we got cut or anything. We got in trouble. Yeah,
you know, you're so lovable. I'm already like feeling, you're just so sweet. And it's this dichotomy, right? Because you're so sweet, but you're like a killer. I love it. Okay, so it's a great mix. All right, so you were supposed to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the title in June of this year, and then she pulled out due to an injury. I mean, sometimes we read this stuff and it's always due to an injury in the media. You know, we never get the full story, but now you have a fight scheduled with Jessica I in January. So I'm curious, like, what happened there and how are you feeling? I'm asking you 62 questions all at once. So let's start with, how did you feel about potentially going up for the title when you thought, you know, you had that fight?
I was really excited, but so I was kind of, not a lot of people took this into consideration. I was the kind of backup for Caitlin and Valentina. Okay. And so I was kind of training for that. And then they both fought, so that was fine. And then I kind of had to wait around till Valentina was ready. So I was kind of at that weird spot of being on the shelf, but not being injured or anything, being in a good spot. But for me, I'm a fighter and I like to just stay active. I like to fight. And so I was kind of excited to be at this place, but also I was like, part of me, I joined the UFC because I wanted to fight and fight the best. So I was kind of like excited, but inactive without an injury. I was kind of at my wit's end. So that kind of played a toll on my mental side, I think, because I hadn't been active. And then we found out that it was going to get postponed, and then it was getting postponed again. So by the second time we were like, okay, we want to take a fight, because we don't want to be fighting the best girl in the weight category being inactive for a year. So right. We took that decision and it didn't go our way because I got armbarred in the first round, but at the same time I'm just, it is what it is and we have to move on, and now I have another fight. So and Valentina's still not fought, so I'm just seeing it as, even though it was a terrible experience losing, and I got pretty bad injury from it, but we're moving on and we're on to the next fight. And no one remembers your last fight, just your next fight.
Okay, yeah, wow. I mean, the roller coaster, it's like you were so close, you know, and I understand. And I have a background in psychology, so I'm always intrigued by the emotions that go into, you know, all of this. It's like everyone expects you guys to be so tough and for things to just roll off your backs, but you're human just like me, just like the next person. And you were so close to what every single person in the fight game is going after. You wanted that title and that belt, and then it didn't happen. And then, you know, but listen, this is life, right? And there's always like ebbs and flows. And, you know, I think you're going to do great and get back out there. And is there a reason why, any strategy behind picking Jessica I?
No, actually, we were actually scheduled, or we weren't scheduled, but before we said, they told us Valentina, I was like, okay, let's fight Jessica I. And we had a kind of partial agreement on the UFC PI car park, because she had just fought and she just had a couple of stitches under her eye, if I remember correctly. It wasn't the Valentina, because that one she got knocked out, so maybe the one after that. Anyway, I didn't have a fight, and I was just trying to matchmake on my own. And at the time she had just fought, so I was like, you want to do it? And she was like, let's do it, kind of thing. But then I think I got scheduled, or UFC told me, no, you're going to be the alternate for Valentina. And then next it was, okay, you're fighting Valentina. So it didn't happen, and now it's happening, and I'm glad of it, because I'm looking forward to fighting her.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that too. Now, you fought Cynthia Calvillo a while back, and you guys share a manager, Danny Ruby. I'm always like intrigued by the politics behind the scenes. Is it weird to share a manager with an opponent, or not at all?
Well, we fought when at strawweight, and I wasn't managed by Danny. But now, I mean, Roxanne, my training partner, who is also in the flyweight division, she's managed by Danny. So he does have a few flyweights, and I think it's more on him. I don't worry about it. I'm not the jealous girl fighter that, oh, my manager is managing all these other girls. I'm not like that. So yeah, that's on him. It's probably more stress and more hassle for him, I'm sure.
Interesting.
All right,
okay.
Here's Mav. Mav, you can come in. He says you can come in.
Hey, Maverick. Welcome back. All right, what are you working on today? What's on the agenda?
Are you working your muscles?
No.
I'm
trying to feed Venus the bug.
all right. Go get Venus and you can show her. I got them Venus fly trap, so he was trying to find some bugs for him. Here we go.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. How long have you been working on that, bud?
Not very much, but
Did you get a bug?
yeah, it was a green fly.
All right, go feed him. That's his moment of fame.
Okay, so is there anyone in your division that you're super close with that you feel is off limits that you wouldn't want to fight? And I've talked to Uriah Hall about this, and there's a few guys, right? Sometimes it's tough because of your relationships.
Yeah, I know, and especially this business, you don't really have a pool of who you get to fight and who you don't. But for sure, I would hope they would take in consideration that me and Roxanne train with each other, and I would not like to fight her, because I do it on a daily and it's fun and we get on really well. So, but I'm sure me and her, we would, if push comes to shove, we would do it, but we do it every day. So I think we both feel like we wouldn't like to do it. But
Yeah.
it's good way we get paid. We both get paid, right? We're doing it every day and we're not getting paid.
I know. I was kind of thinking like, well, I guess if you're really close with the person, you could have like a gentleman's agreement where it's like, okay, we just got to get this out the way. You bring your best, I bring my best. Nothing is personal. And then you just hug it out in the end.
Yeah. And you have the win bonus.
Yeah.
That would be good too.
That would be really good, right?
Yeah.
I like it. Very fair. In one of your posts on Instagram, you had your head down and then you wrote, sometimes you wake up feeling great and sometimes it's a struggle. And, that was shortly after your last fight, where you got one of your 2 losses. So I'm sure being in your position, it's, like it's great to win so much, but then when you lose, it must feel really heavy. What was going on in your mind when you wrote that?
I feel like, and this is in life in general, there's so many days that you have good days, but then sometimes you do wake up and it's a bad day. And for fighting, that's really hard because we have all these training, we train 3-4 hours a day. And if one of those days are bad, then it's okay, we've got tomorrow. But if one of those days are bad and you have a fight scheduled and you wake up and, I don't know, just crap's not there, then it's a bad day at the office for you. So that's hard. But I'm old now and I've realised that that's just the way life goes. So it's very much up and down all the time. And as long as you don't kind of beat yourself up too much, you just get on to the next day, which is hopefully going to be a good day by then.
Yeah.
Could always be a lot worse.
It could definitely. And you have such a lovely family unit, which I'm going to get to a little bit later. But now I love that you're so in tune with your emotions and you're comfortable talking about them, because something I like to dig into is, hey, Mav.
As you say that, he comes in and he thinks there's something wrong.
That's so sweet. So you got 2 supportive men in your life. So now fighting is highly psychological and it starts before the cage. Obviously, we live in a time where social media makes everyone accessible. And, there's people out there that like to voice their opinions with very little information, and it puts a lot of pressure. And I think pressure is like the key factor in all of this. And it's sort of navigating that pressure and working on how to channel that pressure for good. So I want to understand from you, break down the differences psychologically and emotionally between winning and losing a fight.
So all of those thoughts don't really come to me when I'm like walking into the octagon. It's more so when during fight camp, and I'm pretty sure this is probably the same for every fighter, and if you don't deal with them at the start, then they go into your kind of subconscious mind. And if you've not dealt with those thoughts and feelings, which are all normal, then it goes into your subconscious and it comes out when you're actually in there trying to be in the zone and just being in the moment. So I feel like for me, that's the biggest thing, like dealing with the and it's natural for you because you're doing a big thing, like what you're saying. Like there's a lot of people that you're trying to make proud, family. I've got Scotland behind me, and you want to do good for them. So there's usually a lot on your plate, and that's normal. But yeah, it's normal to come, but you just have to deal with it. And I'm still learning how to do all this, and it's hard, but it's part of the journey, and I'm enjoying learning about myself and having to deal with these little things that come in to test you and to make sure you're strong enough.
Yeah. So what are your practices? I've talked to some fighters about sports psychologists. There's a lot of meditation. There's a lot of role playing, for lack of a better term, just kind of like, visualization and putting yourself in that position and like you said, dealing with it beforehand. So what do you do?
Yeah, definitely a lot of visualization. I saw a sports site for this year during quarantine, which was good. He gave me some good pointers. But to be honest, like when I was seeing him, it was making me even more nervous, because then I was like being made more aware of, and then I was putting myself in those positions because he wanted me to tell him where I get nervous and all these kind of like the details. And so now I'm like, I feel like I got enough from him, and I'm going to take what I want to use in the future, and then go with that and see how I get on. But I definitely don't want to see someone every week, because I felt like it was good at the start, but then towards the end I was like, geez, I'm just making myself nervous thinking of these positions, being in these positions, and I really don't want to think about the fight this far out.
Yeah. Wow. No one's ever said that before, but I totally feel that. If you're open, I'd love to connect you with my past guest, Haim Ghazali. He is like the guy that brought MMA to Israel, and his son is a fighter in Bellator, undefeated, like total beast. And what he's working on now is basically just kind of talking to fighters about the hard stuff, the behind the scenes. But he's so cool, and he's covered in tats, and he's just kind of this, like, I don't know, I just see him as this like really down to earth, funny, just, guy who's been through it and is so real and willing to talk about it. Who knows, maybe you guys would have a good conversation.
Yeah, awesome. I'd like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. And then now losing, I've never fought, right? But I've been in the position where I've been surrounded by an audience, and I had the worst performance anxiety, and I couldn't breathe. Like my heart was racing so much, I probably was having a panic attack. And then I forgot everything I was supposed to say, and it was a disaster. And I did better as then I progressed. So like when it counted, I performed, but I was so hard on myself that I drove home with like my hands on 10 and 2, no music for an hour. And I was like wanting to crawl out of my skin because I felt so uncomfortable with what just happened. Mm-hmm. To me, that's like the closest way that I can empathize and relate to what you guys go through when you lose. Does any of that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me, and I remember it in my last fight, and the fight with Rose actually in the house, and I had this outer body experience where I was like outside looking in, and it was like I could see everything that was going on. And like take my last fight, I've been in that position so many times. I know how to defend an armbar, and it was just like almost slow motion and just me outside looking in, and it happened on the show with Rose as well. And not when I was getting, she covered me, but in the first round, I just remember I think I was in her guard and I was just outside. It's so weird.
I've heard of this.
Stupid saying that out loud, but that's what it was like. And it's a crazy feeling. And then you kind of, you look back on it and you're like, wow, that's kind of strange thing to go through, but yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so
that.
That's never happened to me before. And I've always wanted to understand that, studying psychology, like you hear of this and it comes up in extremely stressful situations. And I think, it's been years since I've studied this, but I think that's our way of kind of protecting ourselves in the situation when we're under extreme stress.
Yeah.
But you made it out and you're coping. So,
yeah.
So that's good.
But I have like what you were just saying there. I have been on like UFC do like kind of Q&As and stuff, things like that. And I'll be on stage like with the microphone and be like, sometimes you just say stupid stuff and then you go back to your car, you
Yeah.
go home and you're like, oh geez, I should have said this, and why did you say that? And and you're like, you just want to sit in silence and be like, beat yourself up.
That's exactly what I feel. Yes. I'm curious now. I'm learning a little bit about, and I'm sure as I interview more women, I'm going to think of more questions that I want to ask the women specifically. But one thing that kind of came to mind is, as a female fighter, are there any challenges for you that are different than for the men?
For sure. I mean, walking into a gym is the first major, biggest thing ever. I've managed to train, luckily, and like I've been to a few gyms, and that's the biggest thing, because you walk in as a professional fighter and they're just kind of, there's guys on the mat just looking at you like you're like a piece of meat, or oh, who's the new girl, kind of thing like that. And that's the biggest thing for me that I've noticed going to different gyms, and you kind of almost have to earn their respect. Like, no, I'm not here to fool around, I'm here to train and beat your ass.
Wow.
Kind of thing.
It's so interesting. Even at your level now, you feel like you still almost have to earn their respect now, being number 7 in the UFC?
Yeah, obviously not now, because I feel like everyone knows him, and I have a fiance, and that would not go good for them. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember being at TriStar in Montreal, and this guy, I wasn't wearing any UFC, but I was a UFC fighter at the time, and I was just wearing, probably looked like I was going yoga or something, but I'm not, like, I don't dress in UFC and all the gear, I just dress whatever's comfortable. And I remember he didn't have someone to go with, and I said, you want to do a round? And it's sparring, and he just like looked me up and down and was like, and he was like looking around, and then Faraz, the coach, he was like, go with Jojo. And then we ended up going, and then after it he was like, oh wow, like I didn't realize you're a fighter and you're so good. And I was like, yeah, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So yeah.
That must have been a nice moment. I like those moments in life.
And it is a good moment when you prove yourself months later, and you're still there, and you're doing what everyone else is doing, everyone else talking about, mostly men. So it is always good, kind of satisfying moment.
Do the women make as much as the men?
I don't think so. For sure, no. I don't think so.
We're still there. Yeah. Which is so interesting to me, because like I said, I find female fights so interesting, and I feel like women really go for it. But yeah, we shall see how things progress. I keep seeing all these projections that UFC is going to be one of the biggest sports in the coming years. Not that it isn't, but it's supposed to grow exponentially. So,
I feel like I've not, when they used to give out the purses, I didn't pay attention to that because I knew I would be hurt. Even like if it was another girl earning more than me, I'd be like,
yes.
Oh, why is she getting more? But that's the business we're in, and I'm happy where I am now. Obviously, more money is a bonus and good, but right now I'm happy. I'm content. I love what UFC has done with the Performance Institute. That's like, it's really good for me, I feel, and I would be just happy with that because they provide me with so much.
Yeah, it's so cool what they give you guys. I mean, you can go and get, my understanding is that you can go and get like any treatment you want at any time, whether it's like, I don't know, cryotherapy or like a massage or whatever, physical therapy, whatever you need. And then food, which is my love language. And, and then you get all of these sponsorships just by virtue of being associated with them. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And strength and conditioning. And the thing is, these guys that work for the Performance Institute are the best that you'll come across, and they don't expect anything back from you. Through the journey of my journey in MMA, it's always been, oh, but you remember this time I done that for you, you now owe me, or I have to be in your corner. These guys are the best, the top people that you could ask for, and then don't ask you for nothing. They just want to see you do good. And it's so good to get to that and get that treatment.
Yes, I understand that feeling. It's like, it's really about the job. Okay, so most of your fights go the distance. You've won a lot by decision and then by knockout, and then most of your losses are by submission. So looking at this alone and your fight history, you're stronger on your feet. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's my background, but I feel like I'm much better. I'm more well-rounded than people think. Just obviously my last fight I got submitted, but crap happens. I'm actually pretty confident all round, but yeah, my record would say, and of course it would, because I've been doing Muay Thai for 20 years now, so you would think it would be that way.
Yeah. All right. What is your favorite fight so far? Like, if there's one fight that you're most proud of, or that maybe you felt the best about, like you enjoyed the win just that much more, what was it?
Yeah, I touched one of the guys.
Probably the Courtney Casey fight in Glasgow. The first time UFC came to Glasgow, it was a surreal moment for me. And also the fight, because I can remember I was still in the, oh my gosh, this is amazing. They were taking the roof off, the fans. And then the first 30 seconds, Courtney landed a really good right hand. And I was like, I kind of woke up against the cage like, wait a minute, are we not supposed to touch gloves? How did we end up in this position? And so watching it back, it's pretty funny. And then I just went out there, and it was like, I just went out there swinging, and it was so good, because there was a few things that happened before, and I didn't think that I would get to that moment. And I got there, and I just was loving it, and I was just swinging, and everyone was going crazy. My whole family were there, and it was just a really cool moment.
Those hometown fights, man, those are at the top for most fighters.
Yes.
And you made everyone proud. And so, yeah, I can understand that one. Now, conversely, what's one fight that you would do over again if you could?
Well, John just made a funny face. Probably my last fight. Is that what you're? Yeah. He's agreeing. Yeah, probably the last fight.
And is that because of you feel like it kind of reoriented your position now with your potential title fight, or is there something else about that fight?
No, that part doesn't really bother me, because the flyweight division, I feel like you can go out and get 2 wins and then you'll be in the mix. For me, it was silly for me to take a fight like that on 2 weeks' notice. And me and John had just been in quarantine for 2 weeks, and we were trying to see it as a blessing in disguise, like, oh man, the UFC comes straight back the day after with a fight, after we said that we weren't going to wait for Valentina. We saw it as, okay, it's a blessing in disguise, but it wasn't probably smart now looking out. But you know what? It happened, and it was supposed to happen. It is what it is, and yeah, but in hindsight, no.
Yeah. No, I understand it. You're taking it like a champ, right? But at the same time, you're like, if I had a magic genie in front of me, then, then yeah, I get that.
I'm glad I got some money behind me. I can put money towards to finally paying off my Jeep, and then me and my fiance, we just bought a house on March. So this is all good things, you're not earning when you're not fighting. So
yes,
there's a lot of pros and cons to taking that fight.
If it were up to you, how many fights would you take a year? 3
or 4.
What would you be doing if not fighting? Like, what do you think your career would be?
Geez, I wanted to be a paramedic when I was younger, so probably would have went to university, university, and then done that maybe. But to be honest, just from a very young age, as soon as I found this, I knew I was just going to be in job, and that I was just job after job, skipping jobs just to pay for training and paying for my gas to training. So I think I would, and because that made me happy, you know, I wasn't someone that wanted to have a career or anything. I just found something that I loved, and I just wanted to dedicate and to be there because it made me happy and it made me forget about everything else, all the other worries.
Yeah. It's so fascinating to me. You guys, you know, when I talk to people who aren't in the fight world about, like, some of them just ask me, like, why do these guys do it? Do they make a lot of money? And I'm like, honestly, no, most of them don't. You know, there's like a select few that make a lot of money. But the rest are kind of just making enough to really like survive. And then when I think about why you guys do it, I'm like, is it because you just started at a young age and then you realize you're good at this and you enjoy fighting, and then you get accepted into the UFC, and then you're like, okay, well, now I want to go after that belt, and you feel like that belt is like, you can't turn back now, you're already in. So you're like, you know, for the poker players out there, you're pot committed, and now you can't turn back, you just got to keep going. Is that kind of, would that describe it?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people just get in this to, you know, get fitter, and for me it was a good de-stress. I feel like a lot of people get in this as a hobby, and then it just turns into, okay, we're now doing this is our life, and that just shows you that you've found something that clicks and it works for you and it makes you happy and you love it. And that's what everyone tells you out there to do, you know, enjoy what you do and love what you do, and that's what you should be doing. You know, you shouldn't be going to a 9 to 5 that you hate getting up in the morning to do. You know, I've been there and I've had to do it, but at the same time, do that till you find what clicks for you and what you love, what you do love, what you love to do, and find that, and then let that kill you.
Well said.